the factory team from Polaris Factory Racing. We have Ryan Thomas, Travis Clarke, and Jason Difuccia. Um, this is an interesting session because every brand needs research and development, and all brands want to make their products better. Brands want to improve. When the products are small, like widgets, you can have an R&D department, and you can test in-house. You can test in a warehouse. You can test in a factory. But if you're creating a vehicle that's going to go 1,000 miles through the hot desert, it's very hard to test that in a warehouse. You actually need to be on site. You need to be in the desert. And a lot of times companies can't do that, especially if they're based in areas where there is no desert, in the Midwest, Minnesota. So you need to have a team on the ground who can do the testing for you. In the field of automotive, it's called transfer of technology. You test products, you test aftermarket parts on a car or any vehicle out in the field, and then what works and what works really good, you put it on the original equipment that comes from the factory, and that becomes part of next year's production line. So if you want to start a factory team, how do you do it? We're going to get a few guys on the call now who can help answer that. Travis Clarke is with Senior Vice President with Wasserman Media Group. He pieced together from Polaris's request a lot of the Polaris Factory Racing. Ryan Thomas is part of that program. He runs it. And Jason Difuccia is the CMO currently of K&N Filters, but he was running the marketing for Razor. That's where Jason and I met a decade ago. And he has great insights on not just how to create a team, but also sponsorships. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Alex? Thanks for having us.
Bad. So I want to start out. I'm going to start out with you, Travis. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think Polaris called you and said, "Hey, we want to start a team. How do we do it?" Is that right? Or how does this get started? If I want to start a team, what's the first step?
Well, I think the OEMs in general got tired of me yelling at them that they were doing it all wrong, and they really needed a factory program to extract the full value of what they were trying to accomplish. I got a call from the vice president of OHV who said, "Hey, we're gonna start a factory race program. Can you help us put together a team? Can you help us with the sponsorships? Can you help us figure out what does a team look like? Help us contract drivers. We know we want to build the cars. We know we ultimately want to sell these cars, but we know we need to hire, people who know how to prep and manage them. We know we need to hire drivers, and we don't want to pay for the whole thing. So how can this work?" And so, yeah, for the first, month, 2 months, really just worked with the team at Polaris and figuring out what that structure should look like, who should operate it. Went to them with, list of brands we should approach. Kind of came up with this idea that's not new, but leveraging Polaris as an OE to affect their influence with a lot of their vendors and allow them to work with their vendors on a deeper level and provide actual additional sales for their vendors. So kind of outlining what that program looks like, and then going out and executing. Super fun project. Hats off to Polaris for wanting to do this. They've really put a lot of time, money, and energy into this program. And it's obviously starting to pay dividends. And I'm really excited to see, with a true factory spec race car, how that will democratize racing in the future for people that, want to get into racing, but don't know who to contact or talk to about building them a race car.
And I like the approach that you took because you started with the base company Polaris. Let's think about this. If someone's going to buy a Razor or a Polaris product, usually it's not cash. It's probably going to be financed. So you went to the financing company, Synchrony Financing. Now, if you finance something, you're going to have to buy insurance in case it gets damaged. Well, that was easy. Then you go to Progressive Insurance. Now you're looking at other manufacturers that could be part of it, whether they're factory upgrades, like let's say Rockford Fosgate sound system, that's an upgrade at time of purchase, and the factory fill, the lube tech. So talk for a minute about, instead of calling a variety of different brands outside the industry, find the partners of the company that you're targeting and dealing with from the beginning, because I think that's a very logical and sensible approach.
Yeah, the days of logos on race cars are gone. You got to figure out ways to deliver value. A lot of that focus around value delivery is on, content, social, that sort of stuff, right? But there's even better value deliver, and that's ultimately sales. As an ambassador for a brand, and a sponsored athlete, you're trying to create more brand awareness, which ultimately turns to sales for the company paying you. But if you can just bypass some of that middle ground and go straight to sales, that's a B2B play and a very successful relationship. It's how most of the NASCAR teams, the Formula One teams, they're all funded through B2B plays. Hendrick's a great example. Rick's got several hundred dealerships across the country. He uses DuPont paint in the body shops. He uses Luminar windows for all the window tints, and go on down the list. He's leveraging his business in a way to bring dollars into his race program, and the people investing the dollars in the race program getting business back out of it. So we went through the full kind of consumer cycle of buying a Polaris UTV, and what does that entail? And as Alex said, all those people are financed. So let's talk to the finance company. They got to insure them, the insurance company. Well, they want to do upgrades. They want wheels, tires, lights, all those things. So let's go talk to those. Knowing that Polaris is ultimately going to build a spec race car, that's additional sales for the companies like Rigid and BFG and Method. And BFG and Method aren't offered on a factory player. So for them, this is total incremental business growth and new lines of product that they get to sell to a new demographic. So we went through that process and, made our list of brands to go target, and then went out and spoke to them.
If I wanted to start a team, I'm an amateur, I'm a new racer, but I'm really good and I'm winning. What is my first step to starting a factory team?
Take off all the stickers that aren't giving you any value, for one.
Okay.
And that if they're not paying, they're not giving you substantial product, take off the stickers, because when a brand sees stickers on a race car, they think that you've got some sort of relationship with them. And if you're a wheel company looking for a young up and coming driver, and you're running whatever wheel sticker on your car because they gave you 10% off the wheel, they think you have a relationship, or they assume you have a relationship. They might not approach you. When Andy McMillan got back into racing after a brief hiatus, we were going over the livery design for his truck, and I said, take all that stuff off and take the big blue M off, because as long as that's on there, if you're looking for sponsors, it's going to be hard. And he showed up at Vegas Arena with a black truck. He won the race with the black truck. I think there was a Toyo sticker on it because we did a deal with Toyo. But you really got to show that you're looking for opportunity. And it's hard to do when you're littered with stickers. I know you might think it looks cool, but I'll tell you what's cooler is getting paid to race.
There you go. That's very logical, very sensible. Let's move over to Ryan real quick. Ryan Thomas. Ryan, if we're going to have one of your factory racers on later, Caden Mack is going to come on with Rob, and we're going to talk about how Rob kept BFG for 30 years, and BFG is part of the Polaris team. But if you're selecting new drivers, or if you're looking for more representatives and brand ambassadors on the team, what is it that you're looking for?
Well, Travis just hit the nail on the head. It may look cool if you got stickers, but it's cooler if you get paid to race. You don't get paid to race if you don't treat it like a job. And I think that's one of the big distinctions. A lot of teams that are successful, they don't necessarily treat it like a business. And within this organization, I mean, everybody that is a full-time member of this team is, it's a paid position. This is a business. And so if you're a young driver that's looking to try to get a seat on this team or any factory team, if they exist, sharing and showing that you understand that it's a business and everything you do. Caden's a perfect example. He understands it's a business. He understands that what he does and his role in the business, it's clear to him what his responsibilities are, and he goes above and beyond that as well. And I think Courtney was touching on that earlier. In racing, you're vying for that first position. You can't get better than first. But when you're vying for dollars from brands, you have to be better than first. You have to be first plus, another 10%. And I think Travis hit the nail on the head too. As a team that is partnering with brands, you're doing it for one reason. It's not exposure anymore. Brands have figured out how to get the exposure they need for the most part. I mean, a new brand maybe needs a little bit of help in the brand recognition standpoint, but the reason any athlete is getting paid is because ultimately they're supposed to help sell a product or a service. And as
How
a
much-
driver for a factory team, if you understand that and can communicate that way and conduct yourself in a way that ultimately is going to push sales and ideally sell, if you as a driver or as an athlete have a presence on social media and ideally your own website, there ought to be links to, and ideally you even as a driver, you have affiliate links on your page so that the products that you're representing can be purchased from your website and you get credit for that, whether it's actual dollar credit or just an understanding that this person bought this product because they believed in me and trusted me when I'm saying it's good, and then provided an avenue for them to do that. So I think that I can't underscore that enough, the understanding of the fact that if you're going to get paid to be a race car driver, then you need to understand that it's a business.
Yeah, that's excellent. Actually, I like the affiliate end because it shows direct results in terms of sales. How much autonomy do your drivers have when it comes to marketing and representing the brand versus how much is scripted that they have to stay within guidelines? Because Polaris might have strict rules of what they can say, what they cannot say, how to represent, how not to represent.
There's clearly there's bullet points in a contract that define, what's expected and deliverables and so on. But I think the flip side of that is, I think, and I think the industry will support this, that what has made social media powerful is the ability for an individual to tell an authentic story. And Polaris has been great about allowing the team and the factory team and the drivers to be themselves. But on the flip side of that, if being yourself is not promoting one of your partners in a way that they want to be recognized, then you're doing yourself and those partners a disservice. So again, what's that, Travis?
I was gonna say one of the first things we did, Alex, after we signed our drivers, is we had a media trainer come in and we sat them down, we recorded them, we asked them questions, we gave them full media training, which we should probably be doing again here, Ryan. It's been a few months. We got to keep doing that. But we wanted to, we were trying to operate this team in a full first class fashion, just like a Supercross team or Formula One team or whatever else. And media training is something that all of my other athletes go through with their other teams, and something that we're doing here. To make sure they represent Polaris and all of the other partners well, and they can speak effectively on behalf of those partners.
So the media,
but I think I'll dive into your
Go
question again, as far as the what kind of constraints do they have? There's the logical ones, right? The drivers can't be out promoting another brand tire. I mean, it's common sense. Right. But they do have, and they do have a set of deliverables, but that's the bare minimum. And if those are the only boxes you're checking, you're not going to last long.
So I'm assuming, now I'm going to head over to Jason for a second, that there's a storyline that Polaris wants the team to follow. And Jason was speaking with me earlier about how Polaris really doesn't need exposure, doesn't need visibility. Everybody knows Polaris. What Polaris seeks are for its brand ambassadors and its representatives to tell the story of the brand. And that's where the media training comes in. That's where the guidelines come in of staying within, not a script, but at least knowing what company you're representing. Jason, go into a little more detail on that, since you used to run the Razor program.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of valuable stuff coming out just in this session here. I can tell you from a lot of years on the brand side of this equation, there's such good information. Look, coming from the brand perspective, understand that as an athlete, we want your content. Like Travis said, logos are dead. I want content. I want to tell a story. And one of the big reasons we're going to get together on something is either I need you or the brand needs you to say something that I can't say from the brand, or say it in a way I could not say. And if you think about that, I want you to help tell a story I can't say from the brand, or do it in a way I couldn't otherwise do. That opens up a ton of content. So it's not about being a puppet for the brand. It's like Ryan's saying, it's not about taking the bullet points and regurgitating them on the podium or whatever else. It's really just about figuring what is that story that we're trying to say. If it's Polaris, it's not just the performance of the vehicle, but it's what you do outside the race. That's what we always, well, in my time there, I was looking as much for podium finishes as I was, the whole lifestyle, the camaraderie, the friends and family, all that other stuff. And to say that in a way that I wasn't going to be able to do from the brand with the logo plastered all over it, that authenticity is really coming from you guys, the true people that live and breathe and embody the whole sport. So that's what I would say, just understand the brand's looking to say something. What are they going to say? You can work with the brand on that. And then how do you want it to say? How do you want it to come across? Saying it in your own words, in your own way, with your own video and your own content, that's gold for us on the brand side.
Because otherwise you could just buy ads in a magazine or ads on screen, right?
Hey, look, everybody that tells you they're not a control freak is not in marketing. If we could do it ourselves, we would do it ourselves and have complete control of it. But that's the beautiful part about endorsements, sponsorships, athletes, and the whole, painting the whole picture. We can't say it all. And that's where you guys come in a really unique way, and really and truly a valuable way. Because Polaris certainly can't tell all the stories. I know K&N now, we can't tell all the stories. But you guys, the athletes, certainly do, and you do it with a voice we couldn't get to here from HQ, from home base, and that's a real value.
So if I'm a new racer and I do not yet have a relationship with K&N or Polaris or any other brand, but I want to help tell the story, how do I learn that story? Who do I speak to in marketing? How do I get through? Because I've been knocking on the door. I'm not getting a call back. I want to tell your story, but no one's answering my phone and returning my emails. What do I need to do to get through?
Yeah, that's hard. That's a great question. I don't know that I have any good answers other than to just be available and be out there and be known in the circles. Because your one email or your one phone call may go unreturned, but if you're out there a lot and the dots connect, then there's an opportunity to get there. The other thing is just realize the folks at the brands, they do their homework before they make that call back. So they'll be looking at social, they'll be looking at content, they'll be looking at that. And we can tell when we do that what your voice is. We can tell when we do that what your story is, who you represent, how you represent stuff. And so we'll already know, kind of biased or not, kind of what we think of the story I need to say from the brand, how I think this particular athlete, based off of what I can see that's public out there, how they might be able to help me or not. The thing I would tell you is when you get that call back, it's because they have something in mind, and just be open to what that is that they have in mind.
I get asked that question a lot because we get tons of resumes here, Alex, for jobs, and people. I try to take as much time as I can to speak with young people about how they get in the industry, and they ask that question a lot. And I always tell them this, and Jason, I probably would agree with this. If you're trying to call or send your resume, your race results, and you want to catch the attention of a brand you're having a hard time with, you got to think like a marketer. Your first impression with that brand is a representative of what you're going to do for them, is how they're receiving your resume or your phone call. So be creative, whether that means sending a model of your car with, whatever race results, or mailing a phone, which has happened to me before. And when FedEx delivered it, they started calling it when they saw we signed for it, to, whatever it is, you got to be creative, because if you're going to be an effective brand ambassador, oftentimes you got to think like a marketer. And that starts with how
being paid for
going to receive. What's that?
If you do end up in that position as a paid driver, thinking like a marketer is what you're being paid to do. Yeah, you're being paid to drive a race car, but you're being paid to be a marketer.
Exactly. And their first perception of you is how you interact with them on that first cold call or first email. So stand out from the crowd. Jason probably gets hundreds of race requests, a month. You gotta elevate and show what you're going to be, especially as a young person who maybe hasn't had the chance to prove themselves yet. But if you show aptitude for marketing just in your cold call to a brand, that shows how you may think as a racer and get you far.
So I think the other part of it too is being relentless. If you're serious, if this is something that you really want, it's not just, well, I sent them 5 emails and they haven't responded. You need to show up in the places where you think the people that you want to meet are going to be, and you need to be intentional. When I was younger and had aspirations of being a professional race car driver, I let everybody in my sphere and then some know that, yeah, this is what I want to do someday. I mean, I went to Ivan Stewart's house. I want to be a professional race car driver someday. What do I need to do? I went and met with Cal. Well, I mean, I got in front of everybody that I could, telling them exactly what my plans were and asking for any advice that I could get.
So let's go back to Travis for 1 sec. Thanks, Ryan. Travis, you've dealt with, or you deal with, the Olympics and X Games, and you see a lot of different brands with a lot of different objectives and stories. On the factory Polaris team, we have Polaris, which wants to tell their story, but then we also have Progressive Insurance, want to tell their story. BF Goodrich wants to tell their story. Synchrony Finance. How do you coincide and manage all the different stories that the different sponsors want to tell, or how does that work exactly? If I'm a driver and I want more than one sponsor, but perhaps the stories are different, how do I bring that together?
By surrounding myself with smarter people. No, it's
That's why
really,
Ryan's there.
yeah, Ryan and Aaron and all the folks of the team. No, it really starts with how you are selling in a program, right? And understanding what's the objective of that sponsor. Why are they sponsoring this team? So if you can be aligned from day one about what they're looking to get out of this program, then you've kind of set the tone for what your expectations are going to be for the year, right? And then it becomes a little bit of a game of executing and also managing and making sure you follow through. And that takes time. It's hard work. It's why a lot of people don't, love being a professional athlete these days, because it's not just about what you're doing on the track or on the court. There's a lot of hard work that goes in on the outside of that, in order to make sure you're delivering all you can. So really it's, on the Polaris team specifically, we send out a content calendar 2 weeks preceding the following month, so that all of our sponsors know what day they're getting the post, what that post is going to be. They see the other content we're posting and for the other sponsors and the non-sponsored content. So they can then plan their content calendar around it. So they know they're getting a post on February 17th, then they're going to share that and we're going to work with them to do it and amplify that. So we're trying to give as much
content calendar is not made in a vacuum either. That's the content we're creating is based around the messaging that we understand is important to the brands we're representing. And that comes through communication and meeting with them and understanding the core brand values and so on. It's not just, we don't just create stuff out of a vacuum and then check the box that, hey, now we've represented our partners.
So let's go to Jason for a second. Travis, and I know Ryan, you guys have sold a lot of sponsorships and you've sought a lot of partners to join the program. Jason, when he was at Polaris, he actually issued a lot of sponsorships. Can you speak for a second on behalf of a brand looking for a property or a team to sponsor? What do you look for, or what do brands look for? Not necessarily specifically for Polaris. Now you're with K&N, but I'm a driver and I want to get sponsored. How do I get your attention?
Here's the, like Travis mentioned, I'm sure Travis sees a million of these sort of resumes or sponsorship opportunities, probably involved in a lot of the pitches. And it's true that a day in the life on the brand side, you get a ton of them, and you show up to races or events, whatever, so you get even more verbally and all that type of thing. I would say there's the flashy ideas to stand out, the creative things, cell phones in a box and all that kind of stuff. That's good. It's really good to get the attention. Here's what I would tell you is just be, it's going to sound stupid, but just be yourself.
Be yourself.
We're throwing a lot of things out here for folks that are in business for themselves and have a full race program to figure out everything else. And trust me when I say you got to respect for everything that you're trying to do. I know when you come to the brand that you're not going to be good at every single thing, and you're not going to know the storyline I need to say when you first make contact and all that kind of thing. I say just give yourself the grace and not have to worry about all, reading my mind before you get into that first conversation. Right. Just lay out and be real about what you're good at and what you're not good at. Not everybody is great at every single type of content. Yes, lots of people have a GoPro, but they're not all good at video content. Everybody's got, you know what I mean? Like everybody's good at telling some kind of story. That'd be number one. the other thing that I would say to you is, in just terms of being real and being yourselves, is think about not just where you're good at from a racing program perspective, the classes you're racing, the equipment you're running, all that kind of stuff, but then off the track or outside of the racing, the lifestyle that you're in, where you want to be in. I want to work with somebody from the brand side that is that genuine character, that genuine article. And that means you're not going to get, obviously, not every proposal is going to get approved. But that means that when you do get into that story, or you get into that meeting and you start to work with a brand, it's going to be far better, far more genuine work, more sincere. And that's the relationship from a brand standpoint. That's the relationship I'm looking to carry on over and over and over again. And the other thing that I would just tell you is understand that the bigger brands, the Polarises and those types of things, they have lots of levels of athlete sponsorships. And so if you come in and you make it easy for a brand to work with you, and you commit and then over deliver, you're going to climb that ladder in terms of the level of sponsorship. You're going to climb that ladder pretty quick. And the other thing that I tell you about climbing that ladder is it's as much about who you are off the track as it is what your results are on the track. And I see that too as a common. I think people are put far too much emphasis on race results. Obviously, you're in racing to win and all that kind of stuff. And as a brand, we want you to support you to the win. But your value to us as a brand is far, far more. It's at least 50-50, if not more so, what you do between races and off the track as to what you're doing on the track, and that race summary and that podium interview and all that other stuff that goes into it. So just understand those things. Be genuine, be real about be open and honest about what you're good at. That's okay. And then, think about the kind of lifestyle, the spaces, the other stuff that you're involved in, and how a brand might tap into your story, because it's ultimately those two things got to come together.
I like that, how a brand taps into your story. And you're right, you don't have to race anymore to represent. You have to be a good brand ambassador and fulfill the needs of that sponsor, create value for them through social or whatever it is, telling their story. Thank you, Jason. Let's go real quick back to, let's start first with Ryan and then Travis. You each have 1 minute, last words of advice for a racer on the call seeking sponsorship. What did we not yet cover during the day today? What advice do you have? I'm a young amateur, I'm kicking butt, I'm winning a lot of races, I need sponsors. What am I doing wrong?
Well, I think Jason actually just hit one of my points, and that's that I think the average consumer today is less concerned about competition. And if that's the truth, then the average brand knows their consumers and knows that they don't care as much as far as who won something. They do care about identifying with somebody that represents their brand. So back to the authenticity thing, I think you need to live the life that you represent or that you're supposed to represent. And if you don't live that life, it's not going to work. There's
has to be real.
examples.
Has to be real.
Yeah. So I think that's the key thing is that the race results, that's almost like the bare minimum. And we hear this talk about influencers, the influencers, you're getting more on the budget these days. Race car drivers are we've always been influencers. That's the reason that you got sponsored. It was because you're supposed to be influencing and ultimately selling.
Right.
So
thanks, Ryan.
I would say, don't be discouraged and dream big. Don't give up, chase your dreams, believe in yourself, and work hard. It's not easy. Don't be discouraged by a bunch of folks telling you how hard it is. We're just preparing you for it. But if you believe in yourself and you dream big, and you got the skill, you'll do it. And we look forward to seeing you, at the track, fulfilling your dreams.
Right on. Well, gentlemen, thank you. That was a great session. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Take care, guys.